But lately, there's been a conversation around movie theaters that they're slowly going out of business. They're dying.
Today, we're going to use a little bit of quick Google searches to inform you guys on whether it's time to celebrate or whether it's time to bury theaters. Rest in peace. If a movie is on Prime Video and in the theaters, I would still rather see it in theaters. Even at a cheap theater, you're going to buy 4 tickets and spend $50 just on tickets. So people are still coming out to see these movies is the thing that you guys have to recognize. The main question, are theaters dying? Maybe they were in the ICU, but they are in recovery.
Welcome to Backseat Directing,
where we talk about movies, TV shows, comics, and more.
We're your hosts,
Andrew
and Aaron.
We put out new episodes every Monday and Thursday.
And on this episode, we're talking about if movie theaters are dying.
3, 2, 1, action.
Andrew, going to the movie theaters is one of our favorite pastimes of all time. But lately, there's been a conversation around movie theaters that they're slowly going out of business. They're dying.
Today, we're going to use a little bit of quick Google searches to inform you guys on whether it's time to celebrate or whether it's time to bury theaters. Rest in peace.
Yeah. And a big reason for this is streaming, right? Movies coming to our household super quick for a subscription price, which now we have to pay for all these different subscriptions to get all these movies that we want to watch. And now they're coming out with bundles. So now we basically just have cable.
But it's a lot cheaper.
But it's a lot cheaper.
My Disney Hulu bundle's a lot cheaper.
And we get, well, if you get all of them to see everything, then it's not. It ends up being more. But you get to see new releases because back in the day, I feel like it was a year after the movie came out in theaters that you could get it at Blockbuster or something, you know?
Now it's like 1 to 3 months.
Yeah, it's insane. Like the Fall Guy.
You can already rent it on
Came
Prime
out
Video.
in May.
Yeah.
And it is released on streaming in May or very early June.
No, it's on Prime Video. You can rent it now.
Yeah, that's insane. Less than a month. We're not even to the next month yet, and you can already. That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely insane.
So
it kind of like waters down the value of going to the theater, at least for people who make a big weight of their decision to go to the theater. That time aspect, it's not as much of a time aspect for me. Like if a movie is on Prime Video and in the theaters, I would still rather see it in theaters. Just because the theater experience I find has its own value, and we can talk more at length about the difference later. But I feel like that is definitely a big factor for people, especially people with families, people with very busy schedules. Like if you don't have time to carve out, or people who are financially, backed into a corner, like if you don't have the $40 to buy 2 tickets and pay for a little bit of gas and get some snacks, which now with the snacks, you're probably up closer to 60, 70, depending on where you buy the snacks. And if you could,
it's like $15 for the chicken tenders that I get there. It's crazy.
And they're not even that good.
They're not that bad at the
place we go.
Yeah, the Spring Hill 8, but AMC's chicken, they're not nearly as good.
I've gotten the like mini burgers at AMC, and
AMC's food sucks.
They're
let's be honest.
Okay, but they're like
when Brooke and I went the last time to AMC, she got these pretzel bites. Disgusting. They just taste like rubber with salt on them. And then I got these like sloppy Joe brisket things. Those were also not good.
I probably could have told you sloppy Joe brisket at AMC.
It was just a brisket. It was just like a brisket sandwich, and it was not good either. And it's like, man, that sucked.
But they know they can upmark the prices so high. So the prices are a big factor too. I mean, especially if you've got kids, right? And you want to see the new Despicable Me 4, check it out in theaters over the summer. You have 2 kids, 2 adults. Like if you can just purchase that on rent to like VOD on Prime Video for like $10-20, you're saving so much money.
Yeah. I mean, you rent movies on Amazon for $6.
Even at a cheap theater, you're going to buy 4 tickets and spend $50 just on tickets.
Right.
Not counting any other expenses.
Right. Even if you can afford to go to the theaters, knowing that it's coming out in a month or two, either to where you can rent it for $5 or to where it's just free on this subscription program that you already have, like that's a motivator to just wait. Even if you wanted to go to the theaters.
Yeah.
I feel like it's easier now than ever to convince yourself not to go to the movie theater.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a combination of things like you said. We've got the advent of streaming, we've got the increased cost of living, we've got the saturation of the market of just so many titles coming out, and there's been a lot of debate about the quality of products. The influx of, how would you say, quantity over quality. And you have all these movies that you're already paying for anyway because you're paying for your Netflix subscription, you're paying for your HBO Max subscription. So you've got all these movies that in a way you're paying for already and are coming right onto that service, like Netflix original movies. So people, I think, take those things into account when they make their decisions. But the film goer in me just loves the experience. And if you are somebody that loves movies and you love the experience of watching movies, there is no more pure way to watch that movie than in the theater. And I'll give you a multitude of reasons. For one, it shuts out distractions. You're in a completely dark room where the only thing lit is the screen. Your phone should be off. It turned off or at least silenced. You should be looking forward to the screen, minimalistically discussing the movie with your friends, if at all. There should be 100% focus. You're also seeing the movie on a much larger screen than you would have at home with improved sound quality. So you're getting an improved experience for your senses, auditory and visually. And then on top of that, the community factor of going to the theater, I think, is something people undervalue. Yes, it's annoying if people talk during the movie. Yes, it's annoying if people disturb you by having their phone on. But the community factor of laughing together, of crying together as a group, of smiling and going through this emotional journey, the saga that is being put on before us, that hundreds of people sometimes thousands worked on to get from the page onto the screen in front of you, that is an incredibly valuable feeling of its own. Like, you are all appreciating this art that a bunch of people worked very hard on together, like as a mass group. You can stand in front of a painting, you can stand in front of the Sistine Chapel, you can look at a photograph and have a ton of impact on you. But as like a collective, as a species, for us to like sit together and watch an epic moment on the screen, it is like a truly special phenomenon. And I cannot tell you how badly I do not want that to die. Like, I can't put into words how badly I want theaters to stay alive and the movie-going experience to stay alive. I do not want to find 20 years from now that my only option is to sit and watch the movie at home. Like, sure, it'd be fun to have friends over and we all watch the movie together, but I want to have friends together go to the theater and experience it on that giant screen. I feel so strongly about this.
Yeah, I mean, those are all points that I 1,000% agree with. But to play the other side of the coin here,
Yeah, you devil's advocate son of a bitch.
you can just sit down, split the cost of a $5 movie with all your friends, family. Like, I got a surround sound system. It's not as good as a movie theater, but it sounds pretty good out there. I have a decent sized TV. It's a lot cheaper if everyone comes over here. Like, also, are studios even prioritizing the theater anymore? It seems like so many movies are getting a limited theater release or just going straight to streaming these days. So is the movie world, are they prioritizing watching movies online opposed to actually going to the theater?
I would say it's never best to listen to the money people. The money people have no idea what they're talking about. I think that most of that conversation is coming from CEOs, execs, producers, filmmakers. Filmmakers love that film going experience. If you talk to like a filmmaker, a director, Tarantino, Nolan, Villeneuve, like these people are pushing for theater experiences. Like recently, Tom Cruise, Joseph Kosinski, Greta Gerwig, like these people want that bombastic theater experience and they're building that for a theater audience. They're filming their movies for theaters. That's why we get these little lines before at the end of a trailer that say in theaters only June 30th, because now we have to have that distinction. But those filmmakers that are prioritizing that, those people that love the art form, they want their movie seen in theaters. So the way I would put it in perspective to what you just said is, imagine 10 of us maybe comfortably fit in a living room, right? We watch the Avengers Endgame scene where Captain America calls Mjolnir to his hand for the first time, and we erupt and we're excited together. That is fun. But imagine the 10 of us in a line in a theater on a giant screen with massive speakers with then 100 other people equally invested in the story surrounding us. Now all 110 of us are erupting and excited. That, like, the momentum of that is so much more intense than the momentum of 10. Like, that's why we get together. That's why we do this. Even on a government level, we have the right to assembly. Why do we assemble? Because it's more powerful than all of us sitting in our own rooms at our home agreeing. All of us together in a city square, 100 strong, 1,000 strong, screaming together like as one voice. That's what the theater experience is. Like, we as a species are, I think, evolutionarily ingrained not to like be alone or even in small groups. I think we have a comfort in a sense of numbers. And so I think there's like a biological component to us that like lights up circuits in our brains when we experience like something as a group, or whatever it is, sharing the same feeling as a group. And what movies do as an art form is manipulate how we feel. So if they're doing their job correctly, they're making us all feel the same way at the same time, which is just like this shooting star effect of like magic.
Yeah, so it seems like the feeling of the theater is still alive. The experience of the movie theater is still alive, at least to you and to me. But our studios are these execs that you talked about. Is the industry itself doing enough to support theaters to where they can stay alive?
I don't know. It seems like I've worried back and forth about the business model. You know what I mean? Like my AMC stock isn't doing well. It's not doing hot.
Because like we like going to the movies, but I mean, we can't help it if the movie goes to streaming in 2 weeks after it goes to the theaters. Like.
Or I'll see a movie that's fantastically well done and made with a lot of care and effort, and it's funny and it's poignant, smart, and cool. And nobody else went to see it, and it flopped at the box office for a $10 million weekend. Like, I'd be curious to know how much the Boy Kills World has made, but that was a drastically underappreciated movie that came out last month, and I freaking loved it. But movies aren't finding their audiences enough sometimes nowadays.
And why is that?
I don't know. I feel like the movie has to go out there and pull its audience into the theater nowadays instead of the audience finding their movie. The audience doesn't find the movies have to find the audience. It seems, unless you're looking at the top 1%, the 1%ers, the audiences are flocking to.
Boy Kills World. I don't even see a budget on here, but it says worldwide gross $3 million.
See, that's crazy. There's no way. That movie probably cost like 30 to 50 million to make. So that's like,
yeah. Even the Fall Guy, dude, that thing was everywhere in advertising, all over social media, the news, and played before every single movie we've been to in the theaters. The trailer did. Let's see what that one did.
It made a decent splash, but it's
$130 million budget, brought in $146 million.
Yeah.
So it just made its budget back, and that's not counting all of the marketing that they did. Yeah. And they had to have shoveled in a bunch of money into that marketing. It was everywhere.
Yeah, if you look at it, like, if you were to break it down and really see like how much profit directly went back to the studios, I would say that movie's a financial loss for sure. Yeah. Especially with the marketing.
They're probably looking for what, 350 to 450, to feel good about the movie.
Yeah.
And they were half of that.
Yeah, what you said they spent around 150 to make it?
130.
130. They're
146 is what they got.
They probably would only start making a profit around like 250-ish.
Yeah. Yeah. And even back in the day too, like you had the theater experience, you had all the money and revenue from the theaters, but then you also had all the DVD sales. So then the movies themselves could make more money to where we could get more original stories. Nowadays, those original stories don't do as well in theaters, like The Fall Guy, like Boy Kills World. And then there is no real like movie DVD sales after the fact. There's maybe renting on Amazon or whatever revenue they get for putting it on a streaming service, but it's probably nowhere near the same as what it used to be.
There's only this niche level of physical media collectors left nowadays. And it's not so much people who want to watch the movie at home as much as it is this
They want
specific group of people that want to collect.
Right.
It's not that many people buying to watch on DVD.
Well, I mean, at any point, the downside to all these streaming platforms, at any point, your favorite movie could just disappear. You know, like some legal thing or the business goes out, like it could be gone. And if you don't have a copy and they hadn't made copies in, you know, however many years, or they only have a limited number, like you can't just go to the store and buy a movie from, you know, 2015 very easily these days.
You're absolutely right. But with all of this discussed, I have to ask you the big question, Aaron. Financially, looking at the numbers, getting down to the nitty gritty, are movie theaters actually dying on paper?
Okay, so in order to get a good, clear picture of this, we have to look further back than the last few years and kind of look at where it was in the last like 2 decades, right? So starting back at 2000, okay, the worldwide total gross for theaters, movies, so not theaters specifically, but like how much the movies brought in, $7.476 billion. Okay. Climbing all the way up to 2010, $10.585 billion.
So some growth,
So
but
a decent amount of growth. I mean, in 10 years, that's what? Like 3 billion?
but you can say the movie industry is uptrending here.
Right. So then let's climb to the highest year that we have had in 2018. So 8 years later, $11.363 billion. So it's climbing. Not a huge jump, you know, from the 10, but every year it looked like, I'm looking at the site right now, boxofficemojo.com. It's got all the numbers here. Over the last, honestly, from 1987 all the way to 2004, there was a increase in revenue every single year. 2005 was the first year that it dropped 5.5%. And then it started climbing again and went kind of back and forth here and there a few years. And then in 2018, again, it was the highest at that $11.9 billion. The biggest movie of the year was Black Panther. Is that even right?
I think so. Black Panther made a lot of money.
What about Infinity War?
Infinity War Infinity War is a summer movie. So it would have.
Infinity War definitely made like $2 billion. Maybe that's wrong.
No, Infinity War I don't think made $2 billion. Endgame made like $2 billion.
I'll look it up. I'm pretty sure it's like 1.8.
While you're looking that up to confirm it, one thing that I think we also should consider is the amount of projects, because we also talked about quantity over quality. So we generally have an uptick, obviously, until catastrophe strikes.
Yeah, we haven't gotten there yet.
But in the year 2000, that Aaron's already mentioned for reference, 439 projects were released. And then the other year you mentioned 2010, a decade later, 651 projects were released. So an uptick of, 250-ish projects. And then moving on to 2018, which Aaron said was the highest grossing year, we're all the way up to 993 projects. So another 340 or so projects, which is increasing by about 150%. And then, increasing by about 50%. It's 150%-ish of the total number of projects. So we have more and more projects coming out on a large scale every year. Like take half of the amount of projects coming out that year and add it on. And that's basically what we're getting every decade.
It's so easy, I think. Like the barrier to entry to make a movie is the lowest it's ever been.
You can make a movie on your iPhone.
Yeah. And a free software on your computer you can edit it with. You know, so the barrier to entry to get a movie made is lower than ever. To make a good movie, it's still hard. It's still high. I looked it up. Infinity War, $2 billion.
Oh, you're right.
Black Panther, 1.3. So that looks like that was wrong. But the the other ones look right on here.
Yeah, I wonder if if any of the Infinity War money was made like in like a re-release the next year or anything like that. Maybe that's what why their numbers are shifted.
I don't think so, because it was pretty high up there, I think, before Endgame came out the next year in 2019.
We'll have to ask McNeil.
Yes. But anyways, in 2020, obviously, like Andrew said,
Gave you too hard of a word, huh?
he did.
Something bad happened.
Something bad happened. And the revenue went down by 81.4%.
What a significant,
Dropped
crazy
down
drop.
from 11 billion to 2 billion. And
Dude,
then-
some movies made that in a year. Isn't that crazy? Like,
Right.
and you just said Infinity War made that in a year, and that was the entirety of box office returns for 2020.
Insane.
Everything in the world shut down. What a crazy time in the world.
Really is. So then it's been climbing ever since, though. Went up to 4.5 and then 7.3. Last year was 8.9 billion. So we're steadily climbing and climbing.
So you have
And I hope these numbers are correct, because their number one releases seem to be a little off. Because I also don't see Avatar: Way of Water on here anywhere.
Well, Avatar: The Way of Water came out in December. So
Oh, do they cut it off?
yes.
Okay.
So it's the money made in that year.
Interesting.
But I think important thing to note here while we're talking about the jumps from 2020 onward is like the movie industry took a crazy hit, and we'd be remiss not to mention how many people were affected and how their lives were impacted, not only in terms of general health for the community and all the dangers that came, mental health, physical health, but people in their workplaces, how damaging it was in 2020. People's industry dropped 81% of the money it was earning. That means people are being hurt financially, for sure. It affected so many people's lives. But look at how the movie industry rebounded in these numbers. In the next 2 years, it basically doubles each time. 2 billion up to 4 billion. 4 billion up to 7.3 billion. So like the amount of work and effort it took from these people to revive the movie industry from that critical hit is really, truly impressive. And I just wanted to hit on that. I mean, also looking at the projects, 2020, how did we still have 456 projects come out in 2020?
Because they were made beforehand.
Yeah, it's crazy. It basically is cut in half from the year before in 2019, which was 910. But probably a lot of those are streaming releases, the 456. And then each year since that, we've had around 450 to 500. So
Yeah. So we're not doing too bad. Like
We haven't
Andrew
reached the
said,
same numbers.
the highest year was 2018 with 11.9 billion. We had 993 releases. Last year, in 2023, we had $8.9 billion, but only 589 releases.
So people are still coming out to see these movies is the thing that you guys have to recognize. The
Yeah.
main question, are theaters dying? Maybe they were in the ICU, but they are in recovery. They're coming back strong. I mean, we're back up 8/11ths of the way to where we were, 8 billion strong as of 2023, which had big blockbusters like Oppenheimer and Barbie. It had Across the Spider-Verse. It was a great year for good movies and people going to see them. So like the average amount of money that movies made is actually higher in 2023 than it even was in our strongest years in 2019 and 2018. Because people have a thirst, a hunger for entertainment, for media and movies. Even with all the backsides that we said to going to the theater, people are still showing up. So don't fear. Movie theaters have legs underneath them. They're still standing, and they're growing back. If we keep showing that love and appreciation that we showed last year for our turnouts to Oppenheimer and Barbie, and spread that love to more movies and more genres and more studios, then we can have the opportunity for a diversity of filmmaking. It doesn't just have to be the 2-3 blockbusters that get all the love. It doesn't have to just be Avatar, Top Gun 3, and whatever Avengers movie comes out that get all the love. We can have life for other projects. I think the big thing, and what put us onto this discussion, was Furiosa, Mad Max saga, and a lot of people saying that had a bust of a Memorial Day weekend and that the theaters were dying. Theaters aren't dying. We just have to show up to different kinds of movies. We have to give different kinds of movies a chance, because otherwise studios are only going to show us what they think we want to see, which is often wrong. even Furiosa, which I'm sure they had confidence in as a studio because it's another sequelization. We talked about, me and Aaron did a box office draft where we each picked 5 movies to form a team. The totals of that box office returns on those 5 movies for each team will compete against each other to see who earns the most money. Every movie pretty much that we picked is a sequel or a remake, or, Lion King story is in another universe like Mad Max is. That's what they have studios have faith in, but audiences are showing them that's not even a sure thing anymore. So we got to give chances to different kinds of movies so that different kinds of creatives can still have opportunities. We don't want art house media like A24 Productions to stop making fun, creative movies because we don't give them a chance. I
think studios as well need to kind of learn how to use their money better.
Yeah,
in a way, like these budgets are getting so high for these movies to where the only way for them to make a profit is for them to make $600 million. But is that too high of an expectation? Like even the Fall Guy, like why does it have to make $400 million, to be considered a success? And if it makes anything less, then everyone's freaking out and saying theaters are dying. It's like, no, they're not.
They have to understand that like audiences like good movies.
Audiences like good movies, but it's also hard for people to go to the theaters right now. Prices are just so expensive.
But look at Barbie. Barbie, I think, cost $100 million, and it was the highest grossing movie of that year. You know how many other movies came out that year that spent more money than Barbie?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if they can make great movies 20, 30 years ago on half or even a fourth of the budgets, and they're still just as good, if not better, then these studios got to use their money wisely.
We always talk about John Wick. Like they made John Wick on like $20 in a dream. It was like, this is like what, like a $30 million movie.
It looks freaking fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's got the best action that we've seen. The cinematography looks amazing. It's got a well-known actor to lead the role.
And it didn't make insane amount of money, but it was profitable.
Right.
It was a success.
Yeah. And then they made 3 more after.
If you only ever swing for the fences, you're gonna have a lot of misses. You have to understand that. Like sometimes you gotta have the bunt play. Sometimes you gotta like have a double,
Right. Like what's that one movie that's coming out and had like a $300 million budget? It's coming out this year, I think. And it's like super high.
$300 million budget.
Yeah.
Did we draft it for our box office team?
I can't think of what it was.
It's not like,
I know Indiana Jones was up there for that much, but there was another one I thought that was this year. That was
Godzilla and Kong spent a lot of money on their movie, I think.
I don't think that was it.
Hold on. Highest budgeted movie 2024. See what Google says. Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. Oh my gosh. This isn't from 2024. This is the highest budgeted movie of all time. It says Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides was $378.5 million.
Jeez.
Is that not absolutely insane?
That is crazy. Yeah, a lot of these are insane. Kind of going through the list here. Of course, you got like all the Avenger ones, Pirate. There's a bunch of Pirates on here and a bunch of Star Wars movies. Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, 432. Is that right?
This says they spent $533 million on Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
This page says 447. So either way, they don't need to spend that much. Like the creator had an $80 million budget and it looks phenomenal.
Yeah. If you're making the Avengers, sure. $300 million.
Yeah, and you have like an ensemble cast, and like each of them are probably making $30 million. Like we get it. But other than that, like, come on. There's got to be more efficient ways to make
Sometimes
movies.
you can tell a close-nal personal story. What am I saying? Did I say close-nal?
You had
a close personal story. That was definitely an Aaronism. And it just doesn't have to go as big. I don't know. But the studios are going to studio.
That's right. What do you guys think? Are movie theaters dying? Are we crazy in thinking that they're not, and that the movie theater experience is still valuable and it's there to stay?
Comment your favorite movie theater experience. That's what I want to hear.
Yes.
What movie was the best experience for you? Oof. I don't know. Do you have one on deck? Well, I think.
Yeah, a lot of the Avengers movies have some pretty peak moments. I remember everyone laughing a bunch when the Hulk picked up Loki and was throwing him back and forth. Obviously, when Captain America grabbed the hammer, that the whole theater was clapping and cheering.
I would say my personal favorite is probably seeing the first Die Hard in theaters last year at Christmas time. Mm-hmm. It was very special to me, and I laughed maybe more than I ever have in theaters.
Nice. Yeah. What's your guys' favorite movie theater experience? And what's the next movie you're going to see? Let us know down in the comments below.
And also make sure to like and subscribe on this page so that you don't miss any of our awesome content. We have new episodes coming out every Monday and Thursday. Boom. You can follow us on all of our social media pages on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all over the place on X. You can also find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. We're on Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts. Make sure to go on Spotify and rate and review the show with a 5-star rating. It helps out a ton. The best thing you can do is share us with friends and family, because that'll help grow the show and grow this community. And with this larger community, if you guys want this group to be able to chat together, there's somewhere you can do that, which Arron will tell you about.
It's in our Discord. The link is in the description of this video. And in our Discord, we talk about different movie topics, TV shows coming up. We got The Boys coming up here in a few weeks. I'm sure we're going to be talking about that every week as we watch along the show. We have suggestions for episode topics that we take, and we typically have like a week or two turnaround for those. It's a lot of fun, different polls, different games, and whatnot. And I'm sorry, it's going to cost you a lot to join, though. Andrew, tell them the price.
So your credit card is going to be charged for free. I need your help to find the pitch on that. I need you to go first.
I can't match pitch. I can't say words, which means I can't sing them.
I need to match your pitch.
You need to match mine.
You have it down.
Yes.
I don't know the free.
There we go. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching.
And
that's a wrap.